Break it down time now, and we're looking at WrestleMania 7, 30-year anniversary since WrestleMania 7. As we did with the Rumble, just having a look back and seeing our initial thoughts on WrestleMania and basically just having a little bit of a recap on it, really. So, guys, earliest memory of Mania 7, anything come to mind? Johnny, let's go to you first.
This is the first WrestleMania that I remember, and I would have been 4 or 5 at the time, probably 5, yeah. So, yeah, it's the first one I remember. I believe I came into watching wrestling around the Survivor Series 90, so I was possibly even pompous mentis that this WrestleMania was coming, and I definitely watched it at the time as well. I remember certain things that we'll get into later on, like how my little 5-year-old brain computed what he saw on television to what actually was happening.
Yeah, it's the same as. I mean, we've talked before about how our wrestling lives intertwine. This is the first one that I probably watched around the time that it was broadcast. Everything else I watched on videos that I got from Car Boots and stuff like that. So yeah, this is the first one that's proper in there.
For me, Blockbuster didn't have WrestleMania 7. They had WrestleMania 8, but not WrestleMania 7. So I didn't really watch it. My only memory of it was I had a Macho Man Best Matches VHS. And I think the last match on that was Macho versus Warrior, and it had the full aftermath as well. So that's my only sort of earliest memory from this whole thing on there. So with that, let's look a bit at the background for it. So it was originally planned for the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum, I think it's called. They faked a bomb scare because they didn't sell enough tickets, and they moved it to the Los Angeles Memorial Arena. Apparently, the Gulf War storyline was not well received in some parts. But yeah, I think that's sort of the biggest backstory, should we say, for it, is the Gulf War side of things and the Slaughter versus Hogan, which we'll get into. But got any tidbits before we go through the match card?
Surprised at how few ticket sales were actually done there, because they didn't have to give any refunds, which means it was definitely under 16,000, and it was more likely projected at the time at about 11,500 that had sold. So that's pretty bad for this period of wrestling.
It's strange that you mentioned 16,000 as a guess, because not the facts, but maybe what some sort of journalists say is that they did sell exactly, or around 16,000 in what should have been 100,000 seater stadium. So yeah, it did massively undersell. And I was wondering if Jamie was just going to say it was because of the bomb, but no, it was definitely because of the old
not selling enough. Yeah, not buying the lie of a bomb scare, which they announced 4 weeks in advance. Doesn't make any sense. But yeah, I think it was something like 10,250 or something were actually purchased tickets, and the rest were given away, which is crazy, as you said, for 1991 wrestling, how hot it was at the time. Yeah, certainly is crazy, those low figures. It's sort of Great Balls of Fire 2018 levels of ticket purchases.
They did say they'd be very unwilling to do the bigger stadium as well, just because of the amount of time and money that it would cost for the security as well. Even if you ignore the bomb scare side of things, obviously with the storyline, you were going to need loads of security, and they just worked out that it wasn't feasible.
Exactly. So let's have a look down the match card then. So first of all, we look at the dark match wise, Coco Beware beat the Brooklyn Brawler. It wasn't on the VHS. It's not even on the network, so it's just a nice little thing to mention that match happened. So first off, we've got the Rockers. The Rockers took on the Barbarian and Haku. Rockers were really over at this time. If you look at watching the match itself, the crowd really did pop for them. Really good heels, the Barbarian and Haku as well, and Bobby the Brain Heenan, fantastic. First thoughts on the beginning of the pay-per-view, America the Beautiful, leading into the first match?
Let's not comment on the national anthem. That's just here or there, something we skip every time.
I did.
Yeah. I love this match. It is brilliant, excellent match. This is the exact sort of match you want to see Marty Jannetty and Shawn Michaels in. Two, high flyers at the time, battling two really powerful big men, and the contrast between them worked really well. There's a little fun fact I've got for you is that this is Bobby Heenan's last pay-per-view appearance as a manager. Wow.
It's a shame, really. I quite liked the dynamic of him being manager, and then we'll get to this in a second, but just cutting straight to the commentary table just after that, I quite liked. But for the first match, we had Jim Duggan, Hacksaw. He was on commentary for the first side of things. He come out wearing a lovely red, white, and blue suit and a lovely hat because USA rules on this event, basically. Adam, what was your view on the first match?
Yeah, great. I mean, you just touched on it with Jim Duggan, first of all. I am very shocked I've never seen a custom of that figure because I actually love that outfit. It really promoted the Stars and Stripes Forever tagline that they had for this event, and the fact that they really wanted to move away from the negativity side of it and bring it all to good old USA. Duggan, perfect for that. But the match itself was brilliant. I did notice that Marty Jannetty took most of the punishment in this match, where I think, I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that Michaels normally took most of the punishment in matches. So that was a bit of a role reversal in this one for me. Interesting note and interesting fact for you is this was the first of 3 WrestleManias where Shawn Michaels was in the opening match, which shows how over kind of he was with the crowd at this time and going forward. But yeah, great match. I'm kind of shocked that the result wasn't the other way around, just purely because of Haku and the Barbarian appearing again later on in the pay-per-view. I think it would have made them look stronger if they'd have picked up the win in this one.
Yeah, I think you can't go wrong putting Shawn Michaels, Marty Jannetty first. As you say, Shawn Michaels does open in the next few WrestleManias, and I kind of disagree. I think the right people won. It got the crowd after a very, really hot start and couldn't have fault it. I don't know if I just said that it was Heenan's last match, but it's his last pay-per-view, not last match.
Yeah, he said pay-per-view.
Yeah, we're going to see him later on. Just wasn't sure what I said there.
He said match as a manager.
Was it the Rockers' only win, I think, at Mania? I think they lost the other 2 or 3.
Yeah, I think that's right, because they lost the Twin Towers at 5 and then against...
I think, is it also Marty Jannetty's last Mania match as well? I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, it was.
On there. But yeah, I think with the storytelling of this match is just second to none. I think this is the sort of tag team match I love to see in this day and age, especially being a kid. If you're watching this sort of thing, you want to see the 2 high-flying, smaller guys, should we say, because as you're a kid, you always think that you reflect more against the smaller guys, overcome the bigger challenge, which in this case is Haku, is a big, mean, hard bastard, and the Barbarian as well. So I quite like seeing that sort of storytelling, and the kids. It's one for the kids to kick the show off, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, not to dwell too much on this match, but there's been talk again of return to wrestling training for myself. So this is this exact sort of persona or wrestling style that I want to try and replicate, is that of Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty. Obviously, I'm not going to be anywhere near those guys, but in terms of storytelling in the match and some of the moves, that's where I want to go for my style.
So you can land the missile dropkick and the crossbody simultaneous ones. So yeah, from a really good match and from the good to the, in my opinion, not so good Texas Tornado versus Dino Bravo. So we've got Bobby the Brain Heenan joins us back on commentary to be one of the best color commentators that you can get. But yeah, this match for me just not good at all. I think the first minute and a half, it just looks very sloppy. Dino Bravo looks like he misses a few cues or a few spots and finishes with a tornado punch. So Johnny, what's your view on this one?
Yeah, Dino was very sloppy this time, but luckily it is his last ever pay-per-view appearance. Not luckily for him, certainly.
Not now.
Yeah, it's tough to put Dino in. It's a tough watch at this point of time. He's not performed very well. He does have a brief comeback in '92 as without the bleach blonde hair in Canada and things like that, and he looked okay, but that obviously didn't last long.
Yeah, so I mean, if you take out the kind of 5-second, 10-second matches and anything involving Michael Cole, this is probably the worst match in WrestleMania history. This is a terrible, terrible match, but there are reasons for it. Dino Bravo, like you've touched on, Jamie, missing cues and stuff. It looked like he hadn't got a clue. It looked like there'd been no preparation for this match. They were talking to each other the whole match because he didn't have a clue what he was doing by this point. Texas Tornado is understandable. His foot was amputated by this point. So, you know, he was wrestling with one foot, like literally wrestling with one foot. Interesting story about that. I don't know if you heard anything about that, but he injured his foot in a motorbike accident or a car crash or something like that. But a few hours after he had the surgery on it, he really needed a cheeseburger. So he decided to walk on the foot and go and get a cheeseburger from outside the hospital. And pretty much that's what led to his foot having to be amputated. So his own downfall really on that one. But the match was horrendous.
A milk steak, you could say.
I've got to admit, I never heard the cheeseburger story, but I did hear that he just back away from it, and that's the reason why he lost the foot in the end. But he still performed pretty well, like in other matches. So I don't know whether
it says a lot. I think that the foot wasn't noticeable in this match. There was one bit, I think, when it started to go downhill when he went for a clothesline. I'm guessing clothesline Dino Bravo over the top rope, get a bit of a crowd pop in there. Dino Bravo was about a foot away from the rope, just completely missed his cue and just fell over into the corner. It was just that sort of sloppiness. I think it just sort of ruins it for me. But yeah, I agree. I think this pay-per-view in whole is good. Just like you said earlier, but on a different subject, if you take out the smaller matches, and I think this is one of the forgettable filler matches, I think.
Yeah, you in the card, so to move on to the next.
Lovely. So we've got the people that faced each other on every single pay-per-view in 1991, the British Bulldog and the Warlord. Jono, who's your view on this?
Not a great watch, but I understand why they did it. They wanted to get highlight David Boy's strength to break the full Nelson by the Warlord, and it accomplished what it accomplished, but it shouldn't have been given enough. As much time as it was.
I actually slightly differ there. I really enjoyed this match. I know it's not going to be the most exciting match in the world, but I think as a big man battle with the odd kind of bit in there that surprises you, I actually thought it was really good. Bulldog did a pinpoint drop kick in this match that was amazing. A standing drop kick as well, no movement at all. But this for me, it kind of sums up my childhood, this match, because there was a computer game, I can't remember what it was, but Warlord was one of the main bosses, let's say, in the computer game, and it was always Bulldog against Warlord in that one. I think it was like Spectrum or Master System or something like that it was on. So this sums up my childhood, this one, and like Jamie says, Bulldog versus Warlord was a rivalry which lasted all year. Good battle.
There was one, I think, nostalgia-wise, there was a bit in this match where it really sort of got me by the nostalgia hooks. It was when the Warlord locked him in a bear hug, and I don't think they do bear hugs as well as they used to back then. If you get the heel lock the baby face in a bear hug, the referee sort of does the old arm drop side of things. That's classic wrestling for me, and I think so you don't see that much of these days. Even with like a cheeky headlock or a sleeper, it used to be quite common back then, not very common as much nowadays. Waste a bit of time on the match as well, which I always like. So yeah, next up we've got Nasty Boys. Nice little interview from them beforehand. I watched it yesterday with the wife next to me, and she didn't really get Nasty Boys and what they were about, seizing into Mean Gene's tissue and so on. So yeah, it's a good little shouting at the screen whilst sticking to their persona, which I quite like, leading into the tag team title match. Adam, let's start with you this time. What was your view on the tag match?
Yeah, I really enjoyed this tag match. It was kind of what you need for a tag match. It was getting the crowd to thinking, "Ooh, will it happen? Will it happen?" They had a bit of a tester where they went for the old motorcycle helmet hit, and it didn't lead to the victory. So you tended to think then Hart Foundation are going to pull this one out of the bag, and then they did it again, where it did lead to the victory. Bobby Heenan was amazing on commentary in this match. He was so amped up about this match. It was probably one of his best appearances as commentator on this. Have I got any notes on this one? I don't think I have. Very early for the Nasty Boys to win in their WWF career, tag team belts, but it was a bit of a new dynamic to it, which I enjoyed.
Oh, well, if you don't know any fun facts, I certainly do. This match came about in very AEW style, in that there was a tag team battle royal to determine the number one contenders, which the Nasty Boys won and got the shot. And it's also Jim Neidhart's, well, not his last pay-per-view, it's actually the Hart Foundation together last pay-per-view match. So this is the end of the Hart Foundation before Brett's huge singles push coming soon.
It was Anvil's last Mania match ever.
Right. Fair enough.
I do have one fun fact that I forgot. The Nasty Boys actually went out partying after this with Willie Nelson and got absolutely obliterated and gave Willie Nelson one of the tag team titles. So for the next week or so, they had to go around with one tag team belts to the house shows.
That is interesting. I've never heard that one either. I wonder where we all getting our little facts from here.
Probably from different sources, or just make it up like I do. So next, obviously, the match itself really good. Nice little tag team title change. We'll get to the celebrations after. But next up, we've got quite a heated rivalry going into it. One that we touched on in the Rumble '91. Jake Roberts versus Rick Martel in a blindfold match. Which, watching now, it's fun because you know what sort of. Well, we've seen so many blindfold matches since 6 or 7 they've had. It was I quite enjoyed watching this back. And about you guys, Johnny, what's your view on this one?
This is the one that, like, one of them that stuck in my mind as a 5-year-old and something that was completely different. This is exactly what a young fan's going to want to see. It's something that's not a traditional wrestling match. The crowd are hugely involved with Jake Roberts pointing towards, certain areas of the ring to get the crowd to help him, which was an excellent move or booking in the show. And you couldn't have played that any better, I don't think. The only thing you could say is that it wasn't like a blood feud, that an end to a blood feud where it might have been a bit more violent or something to end the feud, but it worked. The feud had actually been going since October the 6th, which shows the longevity of the feuds back then, not like just something, I'm going to win at Fastlane, so I'm going to face you at WrestleMania type deals we get now.
Yeah, it's one of those matches that for us as kids back then, it works. It's played well to the crowd, like you said. Everything gets involved. Martel's atomizer, or whatever it's called, spray. Jake the Snake. They work the crowd really well. But if you put this match on a TV show right now, the critics would have a field day with this. It was too long, and there was pretty much one move in the match is what you'll get from them. But at the time, as a kid, loved it. Still love it now.
The little bits behind it, like I think him feeling the referee and realising the referee had a shirt on, so it couldn't have been Jake Roberts and so on. I quite liked that element to it. But I agree, if it was on nowadays, it would get torn apart. Or I think they had a big risk as well, because if the crowd weren't hot or if the crowd weren't responding to Jake Roberts' pointed, wouldn't it? So I think I'm quite glad they worked out that way. But all in all, I think it was quite a fun watch even now.
Yeah, I think the crowd are a safe bet in 1991. Absolutely brilliant. I'd love to have went to wrestling around that point as a 35-year-old Jono going to 1991 to watch wrestling. Loved it.
Back to the Future style.
Yeah.
And it was Arrogance is the name of Rick Martel's spray. It's called Arrogance.
No, it's an atomizer.
Sorry. Sorry, I thought you forgot the name of the perfume. My apologies, then. You do know more than I let out to be. So next up, we've got The Undertaker versus Jimmy Snuka, which I watched it yesterday. I didn't realize this before, but it looked like it had a bit of a botched finish to me. I don't know if you guys picked up on this, but Jimmy Superfly went for a splash. Undertaker looked like he was about to catch him, dropped him, picked him up, hit him once or twice, tombstone. So I think maybe that was the finish of the catch into the tombstone, but didn't really execute as well as they should have. All in all, it was a 4-minute match, which that happened. Jono, let's cut across. What have you got sort of tidbits wise on this?
Another moment that stuck in my mind as a 5-year-old, 6-year-old is that, Paul Bearer and Undertaker coming down that ring in darkness, and the expressions on both their faces looking white as a ghost scared the living daylight out of me back then. I was having nightmares and all sorts, just from them. Like, basically, the nightmare would be with those two would just walk in my room, and that would do it. Scared to death.
So the match was the match. It was neither here or there. Props to the cameramen on this match, because they found the most worried looking children they possibly could in the crowd, which was really, really good, like Jono, yeah. It would be an interesting quiz question, this one, which would be who did the Phenom face at WrestleMania 7?
God, I don't know what you're going to say here. So
no,
well, the answer is the Undertaker, because Jimmy Snuka was actually called the Phenom back then. He actually gave the name the Phenom to the Undertaker, so it'd be quite a good use of a quiz question, that one.
I would not go to that quiz.
Sorry, Jamie.
No, I was just going to say that's the questions that you're advertising for the old quiz ad, and I'm not going to take part in it.
This is the sort of question we see a lot on Legion of Hasbro, where it has a double meaning, and it catches a few people out. So it wouldn't go out of place there either.
Yeah, I did my research on it when Monsoon called Snuka the Phenom, and I was like, what? Has he got the wrong person there? And then I realised that he was actually called it.
Yeah, and it is his last pay-per-view performance as a singles. I don't know if he did later on in Taboo Tuesday and things like that, but I think they were all tag matches. So there you go. That was a little fun fact.
Only his second Mania match as well. I think his first one was against Rick Rude a few years prior. So it's quite surprising of someone of the stature of Jimmy Snuka back then.
Lost every single one of his pay-per-view matches.
And I wasn't saying and court cases, but I think he did all right on those.
He did have a bit of time away as well.
Yeah, that time. Also, a nice little fun bit of Regis Philbert, Regis backstage, and Undertaker and Paul Bearer measuring him for his coffin, which was top quality banter in 1991.
No, disagree.
Top quality,
all that Jono just said about being afraid of the Undertaker. That little backstage skit ruined it, because the Undertaker started sizing him up and stuff. He should have just stood there while Paul Bearer did all that.
I quite like that. I thought it was a nice little touch.
I think the sort of aura about him was ruined a bit from the Slam Jam song that they released in the early 90s when he was doing his little singing on a record. But next up, we've got Ultimate Warrior versus Macho Man Randy Savage. An absolute classic. These two. The longest match on the card, in my opinion, should have been the main event, but find out why it wasn't the main event later on. But I think a very, very good match. One that, as I said before, was on the end of the Macho Man's Greatest Matches video. He didn't win, but even so, it's still a great match. The ending was a bit strange for me personally, but that's just me liking to see a nice, strong finish to a good match. Adam, what's your view on this classic?
It was a great match. I absolutely love this match from pretty much everything about it. The attire of Macho Man, first of all, is one of the most iconic attires that we'll ever get, especially being a figure collector. The fact that Macho Man was genuinely going to retire after this match meant that you got everything out of Macho Man, and he was willing to do stuff that maybe he wouldn't have been previously, such as dropping 4 elbow drops on somebody for them to kick out. He wouldn't have done that if it wasn't like a genuine I'm going to retire type of moment. The theatrics with Miss Elizabeth and Sherry, absolutely brilliant, iconic in the industry. Honestly, Elizabeth does a better fearful face than anyone, where she's really worried and stuff like that. Her face is brilliant. Just you couldn't have asked any more of this match. I disagree that it should have been the main event because it's not the world title match, and that's just my personal viewpoint.
That's what I meant.
But yeah, you couldn't have asked any more from this.
You know, I didn't watch it recently because I'm pretty well versed in what the pay-per-view is because I had it on video for God knows how many times and watched that many times. When you describing things that happened again to me just there, it just giving me goosebumps again, because this is one of my favorite matches ever of all times. The elbow drops, that was something I remember very well. It's like that was like the talk between me and my brother. It's like, well, Ultimate Warrior kicked out of 7 Macho Man elbow drops, or how many it was. No one's ever done that. And as you say, the finish I really liked in that it kind of won so definitively that it put an end to it completely. And you could feel the sympathy for Macho Man as well, which was leading up to the end with Sharon Elizabeth, which was what a storyline, brilliant, just a perfect ending.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, by main event, I meant it should have been like a title match. I think the build-up they had for it with Sherry begging for the title match, and so I think they should have had something like that intertwined. But it didn't need it. It didn't need it. So yeah, I think it was by far the best match on the card. Arguably one of the best matches in the sort of late 80s, early 90s wrestling that I remember seeing anyway. I think having the match end on the 2 shoulder barges. I think I agree with it in the sense of showing the Macho Man was so knackered that he couldn't kick out of that because he'd given everything, basically. So I think I like the storytelling side of things. I just would like to have seen a big splash or something just to get the crowd a bit hyped up. But I agree on the sense that it was that knackered because he'd given everything that he couldn't kick out of a shoulder barge out the ring.
Beautiful. 5 stars.
Yeah, 6 stars if they have given that out. Any further points on this match from either of you? Sorry, Johnny, I forgot to say, I'll cut you off. All of the crime women in the crowd. Good God, there was a lot, wasn't there?
Yeah, I can picture those women in my mind now. Just crying. Sometimes I remember stuff in, like you said, with the Undertaker. A lot of the crowd reactions were done really well. So whoever was directing, probably Kevin Dunn, I imagine. What a job.
Spielberg, by the looks of it. But it was some of the crime women in there was just top quality television. So next up we've got Demolition's last ever appearance. So we've got them against, I've written this down, Genichiro Tenryu and Koji Katao. And make sure I pronounce this right. Smash and Crush with Demolition on there. So what's your views on this one, Adam? What was your...
So you go from one of the best things to one of the worst things. I'm an absolutely huge Demolition fan, and this was really sad to see. The only reason it was on there was to get the Japanese audience. Tenryu had a couple of matches, I believe, on top of this in WWE, but I don't think we ever heard of Katao again. It was everything about it was disappointing. The music wasn't the same as the Demolition music. I don't know if there was copyright reasons for that, or whether they changed it just before that, but it was really lame, the music. And you could tell it was sad to watch. Smash and Crush should have been fed to LOD if they were going to do that on the way out of WWE. But instead, they were given a really lame match just for a bit of revenue for WWE. Sad.
Very sad to see the shell of Demolition just being demolished here, unintended or not. But you're right. Weird presentation. Mr. Fuji is inexplicably back with Demolition, and the music side. You're right. They actually did change the music from the the Demolition music to that. It wasn't just a network thing. It was completely changed for whatever bizarre reason. I guess it was because there was more of a babyface music compared to not what they are now as rubbish heels.
Yeah, he can't beat a good old "Here Comes the Smash." I won't do the full song, but yeah, it's quite strange in the segment before. They were like, "Oh, Mr. Fuji," and she was like, "No, it's Master Fuji," which was a bit weird. I always thought Mr. Fuji, a throwaway comment to bring that up on. But yeah, very strange. I completely agree. Given feeding to LOD, makes no sense to do it any other way.
I think they were probably linked to what was popular at the time with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles calling Splinter Master Splinter. So
maybe
Master
that's
Fuji.
good with
Makes
the
sense.
times. But yeah, next up we've got the Big Boss Man versus Mr. Perfect for the IC title. Good, overbooked, but good. I quite liked the whole storyline behind it. The Big Boss Man was just making his way through Bobby Heenan's team just to get to Mr. Perfect. That's how you put an IC title on a pedestal for me, is have that sort of storyline where someone's just clawing at the, chomping at the bit to try and get that shot at the title. So I quite liked the little build up for that one. But Jono, what was your view on it?
I think he did a good job in describing what happened and what made this match important or good. So well played with that. It was just it got a lot of people involved and it did its purpose. I think it was to get the Big Boss Man over. And even though he didn't win the belt, that certainly happened.
It was a decent match. It wasn't awe-inspiring or anything like that, but it was decent. I've been doing a little bit of research on the earlier WrestleManias for an upcoming video. And the Intercontinental title, this seems to happen very often. It's always a DQ or something where they seem to hold the Intercontinental title in very little regard at the early stages of Mania for some reason. But it served a purpose and it definitely got Big Boss Man over, which was good.
Yeah, a cheap win, should we say, from this side of things. Right, let's lead on to that. We've got Earthquake, physically and in the sense of the word, squashing Greg Valentine. Poor Greg. Not much of a build-up for this one. Just Jimmy Hart on the ringside being Jimmy Hart and Earthquake just being a big heel. Good match for a 3-minute one. Terrible match on a Mania card. But Adam, what was your view on this squash?
Yeah, it was one of the fillers, wasn't it? I believe that they had a little bit of twos and fro's before Mania, but nothing major. It was what it was. Valentine was pretty much over the hill by this point. So it was just to get Quake over.
It's a shame how far the Quake has fallen since, Royal Rumble. He was the main event in the last few pay-per-views. So, yeah, he's completely just gone downhill. He's a big part player in this WrestleMania without any big match. That's a shame, but we'll be moving on to some sort of tag team soon.
Possibly. Yeah, I think the whole story behind it would have been the Greg Valentine and Jimmy Hart side of things, wouldn't it? I think that would have been the most. I think that made the sense the most to focus on. But yeah, so from that squash match into an under a minute WrestleMania match, Legion of Doom versus Power and Glory, Paul Roma and Hercules. Apparently, Paul Roma didn't want to take the Doomsday device. Do not blame him. But Johnny, what's your view on this 1 minute match?
Yes, he definitely didn't want to take the Doomsday device because he did go into this match injured with a sore left arm, I believe. He had an elbow pad on that, you can see. Hercules also injured, had a groin injury, so that would be the reason why this match was kept so short. The other interesting fact is that we talked about now with the Battle Royal, the Tag Team Battle Royal. The Power and Glory eliminated LOD after being eliminated themselves, which was the reason for this match happening at WrestleMania. Served his purpose, got the Legion of Doom over as the top team, and yeah, he ended up taking the Doomsday device and got injured even more, I believe.
Yeah, he landed slightly funny, which you can see if you slow down the video. Lands kind of twisted on his side a little bit. He actually refused to take the Doomsday device ever again. So he definitely didn't like that one, because I think there was a UK event. It might have been the Battle Royal one in the UK, and he just went to them and just said, I don't want to take it. And to be fair to them, they were okay with that because they know that everyone feared it. It's not going to be a nice one to take. But it was what it was, and LOD were obviously going to be pushed for the stars, so it served a purpose again.
He took it very well, though, to be fair to him. He did a little flip in the air, which I like to see on the Doomsday device. I know the Dudley boys did the Dudleyville device. I think where Bubba fell backwards when they did it, so it took a bit of the impact off. But yeah, he took it very well, this one, and did a little flip on there. But yeah, under a minute. Ouch. On there. Yeah, so next we got Virgil versus Ted DiBiase. A blow-off for a relatively long feud where Virgil was sort of pushed around. Ended by count out. What do you guys think? That's all the information I've got on this match. I did watch it, but not much to really know apart from Roddy Piper. Adam, let's go to you on this one first.
The match was decent. I enjoyed the match. As a 30-odd-year-old man, the match disappoints me watching it back because they obviously had no faith whatsoever in Virgil during this match, which is why everything was about Rowdy Roddy Piper. I'm not a big Rowdy Roddy Piper fan, which I've said before, and he made the match all about him, or whoever booked the match made it all about him, but I would guess it was Piper more than anything. And he just took a bit of the shine off for me as a man now. As a kid, I enjoyed it, and you enjoyed Virgil getting his little one-up on $1 Million Man. But as an adult, I didn't enjoy it as much.
I'm going to come back with a 5-year-old Johnny sort of thing, what I took away from this one. And this one is a bit funny, really, because when I was 5-year-old and I seen this match, I'm thinking, why is the $1 Million Man beating up that woman? That's really harsh. And it really, because of that, I thought Roddy Piper was a woman. That $1 Million Man over a lot more as a heel to me. So I was glad to see when Virgil could get a bit of retribution against him. And I always remember the end of the match with Virgil shouting at Piper, "Get up, get up!" Can't forget that one.
No, that's yeah. The match itself, count out victory. I didn't want to give someone, because DiBiase was on a higher upper mid card, wasn't he? Virgil was just making his way through, so don't want to give him a pinfall victory, but a count out and a nice little victory for Virgil always goes well. But
it went with the storyline as well because they'd previously had a jobber beat $1 Million Man by count out because of Piper.
Yeah, makes sense. Yes, we had Mountie up next against Tito Santana in essentially what's the co-main event, technically, looking at the match card. Not much of a storyline going into it, but Mountie, I think, back then, still good as a heel. John, let's cut to you. What's your view on this?
Just the second off last match does not make it a co-main event, Jamie. But it's nothing to it. It's very quick, and there's no. It's one of 14 matches on this card. Is that what we could talk about here? I quite like that. I like seeing as many people as possible on a pay-per-view, especially when I was a kid. I can sort of, go against it now with not seeing any sort of quality matches. But as a kid, I got to see a lot of characters all in one go. So I quite like a short match now and again.
It is what it is. It's Tito Santana at WrestleMania getting beat like he always does. And yeah, Jacques Rougeau is a quality performer. Tito Santana is a quality performer. These two could have had a barn burner, but it was one of the fillers, unfortunately.
Yeah, I agree with the sentiment. You need to have these sort of matches. You want to have as many matches on your card as possible. It goes back to what Adam was said about I used to love the Rumble because you get to see all the different personalities on the same night, basically. So, yeah, I completely agree. I as many as possible. The Attitude Era is quite the same. If you look back at some of the pay-per-views, then you get like an Acolytes match, which would be 2 minutes long, beating up some random people. So, Crash and Hardcore, for example. So, yeah, I like that sort of style of wrestling where you have an occasional jobber match thrown in just to get them on the card, really.
I quite disagree on the barn burner. I don't think Tito and Mountie were known too well as having that sort of match. And especially Tito, for me, I think he's massively overrated. Because I remember when I used to play on the computer games, I used to make movesets. And I was trying to research moves by Tito Santana. And he literally did no moves. It was just all, elbow drops to the leg or arm drags and did nothing. Strange one.
the fact that you've researched that, I'm not going to disagree with what you're saying, but I am going to go and research it myself because I thought Tito Santana was a brilliant wrestler. So I'm going to have to go back and have a look at some matches now.
Honestly, I did as well. And when I did go to research and have a look through some of his matches, I just thought, what have I been thinking all these years? It really wasn't too good. But I did love his WrestleMania 1 match.
Ariba. Right, let's move on to the main event then. Speaking of very, very good wrestling. Hogan versus Slaughter, middle of the Gulf War. Sergeant Slaughter, the Iraqi sympathizer, teams up with General Adnan and Colonel Mustafa. Just General Adnan, I think, is at ringside for this one, isn't he?
Yeah.
Against Hulk Hogan, with the America on his back, the red, white, and blue, apple pie, and all that sort of things. Adam, first memories of this match, and you know what watching it now, how does it compare to back then?
As a kid, this did nothing for me because I wasn't into Sergeant Slaughter at all. I'm still not into Sergeant Slaughter now, and not in a good heel heat way. It was nothing to me, and obviously not being American, I didn't feel that side of things either. And being a kid, I don't really care about war, so I didn't feel that side of things. So it did nothing for me. I mean, the match was okay. Slaughter was, when I've rewatched it, Slaughter was slightly better than I gave him credit for. I'll be honest, but it didn't invigorate any feelings whatsoever for me. So I didn't get into the match, and I didn't really enjoy it.
As a 5-year-old watching this, what I remember most was that crimson mask worn by Hulk Hogan throughout the match, and that put him on a pedestal for me, that I was able to come back from that. And also, it did make Slaughter look dangerous as well. And the boots that Slaughter wore with, the Iron Sheik type boots, those were kind of something that really stuck in my mind as well as being something that was potentially really dangerous in wrestling. So, I mean, I enjoyed it. And like you said, you're looking back on it, it sort of did put in a pretty good performance in this one. And, it was what it was. It was designed to almost politically, really, to get the Americana pushed a lot throughout the USA. Got the belt back on Hogan, and there you have it. We're back to where we started.
It did a job, didn't it? I think the job on putting the belt back on Hogan, not ending the Gulf War. But I think it was sort of a nice little lift up for all the crowd, and watching Hogan have a pose down like we got at the Rumble. It was very fun to watch now as an adult, knowing all the history behind it and everything that sort of goes with it. But I think at the time, I completely agree with Adam. It wouldn't have done anything for me. I don't think I watched this match until I was maybe teens, early 20s, I'd say, when I first got my eyes on this. But I think just back then it wouldn't have meant anything to me because not American, so it didn't mean anything to us. But that's the sort of closing of the show. So any other tidbits for us? Any highlights for you guys?
I've got a tidbit on the match. Sergeant Slaughter was the first wrestler to make a WrestleMania debut as the champion after Hulk Hogan in WrestleMania 1, of course. So that was a bit interesting on that one.
It is interesting. I imagine it's been done. Has it been done since? Must have been done since.
Must have been, yeah. You've got to think so in this era, but you never know.
Well, according to Bruce Pritchard, this match could have been very different because Sergeant Slaughter wasn't the original plan by the sympathizer. Who was? Do we know?
Sheik Tugboat.
Tugboats, indeed. We could have had another kind of Shockmaster moment.
Sheik Master.
How do you think that would have gone?
I don't think it would have went as well. Certainly not that, but I think like once they got Slaughter under the wing, they knew they were going to go that way. So I think even since SummerSlam they knew that. So I don't know if that was just planned before last SummerSlam or not. It certainly would have been a strange one, but you could. I don't know. It's hard to
I
tell.
don't think he would have generated anywhere near the amount of heat that Slaughter did, because Slaughter was very good. His voice is just commanding, isn't it?
Yeah, he's got like the hair as well and the chin sticking out.
Being is he ex-army? Well, sergeant, isn't he? So I think that adds to it, doesn't it? But the Sheik Master would have done a job, I imagine. Yeah.
Confirm that Sergeant Slaughter was never in the army. It was just it's all gimmick, wasn't it? I don't think that was.
No
He wore camouflage and it was called Sergeant. It's just assumed.
I think there was something recently. I can't remember exactly what it was, but there was some sort of outrage in that the fact that Sergeant Slaughter isn't actually a sergeant or something like that, and people were getting really about it.
You're gonna tell me Macho Man wasn't really macho now?
Oh, he was though.
The Red Rooster wasn't it a rooster? No, I believe that a second. But yeah, I think all in all, pay-per-view wise, WrestleMania 7, it did what it was supposed to do. It put people on the card, which you wouldn't really see because they wouldn't really get that much exposure on there. And also it set the world to rights, didn't it, on there. So lovely. We discussed before that we could be looking, this was 30 years ago. So let's have a look at 20 years ago on the next episode. A bit of a highlight for that one. WrestleMania 17 is going to be coming up on our next episode. So look forward to that one, guys. But apart from that, WrestleMania 7 is in the bag. And we'll be back very soon.
The 3 points of articulation.